Last night was our first football game of the 2023 season. It was the Hall of Fame game, Jets versus Browns. What was the good, the bad, and the all right? We're going to tell you next on the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Locked On family? Let's get locked in. Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your boy, Damian Parson, always on the ones and twos. You can find and follow me on Twitter at DP_NFL, a national scout over with the Draft Network, as well as the host of the Locked On Clemson podcast. Guys, happy Friday. Football is back, and it's better than ever, right? So, listen, we thank y'all for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every single day, Monday through Friday, being the family, but as well as being our everydayers. And I can't talk about football at all without my guy, Keith Sanchez, Mr. LSU. You can find him on Twitter at The Talent Code. Keep talking to him, baby.
What's up, Locked On family? Let's get locked in. This is Keith Sanchez, senior draft analyst with the Draft Network, man, and 2019 national champ with those LSU Bengal Tigers, right? The greatest college football team ever assembled, man. But, man, you know why we're here, right? Myself, Damian Parsons, we are here to bring you that championship level content surrounding the NFL draft 24/7, 365. And DP, we had a good night last night. We had a good night last night because we got some football, right? Football season is officially here. Out preseason, I'll take it, DP. I'll take preseason football, man. But you know, this is the NFL Draft podcast. So we had to talk about the prospects that were drafted, right? Some of those rookies, and then a couple second and third year guys also, and how we see them contributing, right, to the New York Jets, Cleveland Browns, and what we seen yesterday. So DP, we got this recap going, right? We got the good, we got the bad, and we got the it wasn't impressive, but I'll take it, right? We got those. So, man, DP, before we kick that off with the good, man, and you go ahead and let the listeners know what your good is, how about you kick it off with our title sponsor?
This episode is brought to you by This episode of Locked On NFL Draft is brought to you by eBay Motors. A championship team is about each player being a perfect fit. Same with your vehicle. So for parts that fit, head over to eBay Motors and look for the green check. Stay in the game with eBay Guaranteed Fit. ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit. Only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. Keith, you said the good. What was the good for me last night? It was a couple things, man. But I got to go and I got to start at the quarterback position. No, matter of fact, no. Scratch that, Keith. I think it was only like 7 snaps, right? But I'm going to throw him in my good anyway because he looked flawless. Mekhi Becton, right? Mekhi Becton playing left tackle. You know, Dwayne Brown's a wily veteran. We know he's not playing in the Hall of Fame game, right? So seeing Mekhi Becton in the snaps that he played, I don't believe he gave up a single pressure or hurry. He looked really good out there to me, Keith. You know, and I enjoyed watching him. You know, like I said, it was about 8 snaps, right? Not a whole big, large sample size, but the athleticism for his size, the power. You talk about the ability, the pop and shock, you know, rushers when he gets his hands on. And there was one rep where he was kind of slightly beaten around the edge. But then you saw that rookie Mekhi Becton show back up where he's able to open his hips, kind of redirect and get back on his horse and still wash the guy around the quarterback, man. So just being able to showcase that ability, being a blindside protector again, the power, the arm length, the mobility, athleticism, everything that we loved about Mekhi Becton coming out as a prospect that we just haven't seen as of late due to the injuries. I was happy to see him. Like I said, even less than 10 snaps. But I'm not going to sit there and play in his face. I'm going to give my man his flowers. He played well last night, Keith.
Yeah, so he was part of my good also, but I think I'm going to steal your topic, DP, real quick, and I'm going to go ahead and go with the quarterback. And if y'all listen to it, that was the day before yesterday's podcast, We talked about him, Dorian Thompson-Robinson. We talked about the talent that he was. I don't know why he fell that far in the draft, right? The talent that he was, the athleticism, and then also the maturity, right? And then you heard people on the broadcast talking about that, right? That he's a pro's pro, like he cares about this. And you said, and it was one of the glimpses, DP, we watching the TV, right? And it was Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Obviously, Deshaun Watson didn't play. And then you had Kellen Mond sitting right there. And that just felt like one of those situations where Kellen might not be your job. Like you might not be QB2, right? Like that might be a wrap, big dog. Like that might be a wrap, man, if this thing continues, right? Because they have 3 more preseason games after that. But DP, I was impressed, man. I was impressed. And it was kind of on par, right? Like you don't want to say like the told you so moments, but you knew that you liked this prospect, right? Coming out of UCLA, just was not a lot of hype about him. And you're talking about a team that's a pretty well-rounded team, right? As far as offensive line, running backs, wide receivers. Like, you know what, bro? Even with the second stringers, there's still some talent, and he made some things happen out there.
No, he absolutely did. I think his first drive, his first notable drive was a 12-play, 93-yard drive, Keith, and he was impressive all around, right? Not just as as an athlete, man. He is as a quarterback. He did some things well. He was an 8 for 11, almost about 73% completion, 82 yards, almost 8 yards per attempt, and a touchdown as a passer. But also, he ran the ball and made plays with his legs when it was available. Right? You're talking about two carries, 36 yards, man, and like I said, I was very impressed with him. Like I was very impressed with DTR. And it's like I think it was that the touchdown pass. It was a slant back. It was a backside slant. He actually did a really good job in terms of the nuance of the quarterback position. At the post snap, just kind of holding defenders in the middle of the field, knowing that he wanted to keep a void open for that slant so he can drill it in there and let his receiver do this job. But I think the play of the game for him was the block on the Demetri Felton's, I think, touchdown run. You know what I mean? You got the zone action, the mesh point. He lets it ride. He gives it to the running back. He's like, no, I got you. I'm gonna lead block for you, big fella. And, he didn't. It wasn't a pancake, but he dove and made an impactful block.
Yeah, it was impactful, and I believe that block was important for the running back scoring a touchdown, right? And that's the type of things, DP, that when you're talking about building a team, right? You want those type of guys because now the running back, the wide receivers, the offensive line, they're all looking at him like, that's a dude, right? And now it returns itself, and the favor returns itself because who knows, there's a pass protection situation where that running back has to stay in, and now he's willing to make that diving effort, right, to pick up a linebacker or pick up something else, and it returns his favor. And he's like, you know what, I'm gonna do this because he did that for me, right? Because as the quarterback, he didn't have to do that, right? Like most times I tell you, quarterbacks don't get in the way, right? And you see every now and then, maybe 5 times a year, a quarterback does something like that. Before a rookie,
definitely don't dive at
they don't dive, right? Before a rookie in the first preseason game to go at a defender to lay a block to spring his running back or to spring the offensive skill player, it was definitely impressive, DP. And I thought it was the good, right? He's going to be the talk of the town as far as the Hall of Fame game. It was Dorian Thompson-Robinson, rookie, right? Like we said, we talked about him, draft prospects. We liked him. We had him in our top, I think, 7 or 8 quarterbacks, even before, maybe even higher than that, right? Just as far as potentially what he can do with DP. We talked about the good, man. It was always balanced, right? We got to be balanced when we approach this thing. So coming up next, man, we want to get into what was the bad, right? What did we watch? And it scared us. We was like, you know what? We don't care for this at all. So coming up next, man, we are going to reveal what the bad part of yesterday's game was.
What's the easiest place to play fantasy football and the best place for best ball? Underdog Fantasy. Guys, August is here, and you know what that means. The official start of fantasy football drafting month. Get championship ready for your home league by trying out best ball on Underdog Fantasy. All you have to do is one live snake draft, which gives you no waivers nor any trades. Underdog will set your best lineup every single week. Try it out with Underdog's Best Ball Mania tournament. The largest fantasy football contest of all time is back and even bigger with $15 million of total prizes up for grabs, including an absurd $3 million going to the winner. Last year, the winner drafted their team in July, so don't wait around. Visit UnderdogFantasy.com or find them in the App Store and sign up with the promo code LOCKEDON to get your first deposit doubled up to $100. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code LOCKEDON. What goes up, Keith, must come down. We talked about the good from the Hall of Fame game. But can you tell me what stood out to you when you were like, you know what? That's kind of bad.
Okay, can I be honest? It was still I don't see Zach Wilson was bad, right? But I didn't see the progress. You know what I'm saying? And we talked about it on a previous show that we want to see some things kind of go in the right direction, right? And it was, and bad is tough to say, but it falls in that category. Like I didn't think it was like a fluid situation. I didn't see Zach in there stepping up. You know what I'm saying? And it looked like a totally revamped guy, to say that he's been working with, Hall of Famer Aaron Rodgers and things like that. So if anything, DP kind of leans that way for me as far as the bad part.
That's listen, I feel you on that. I feel you on that. I put Izzy, man. Izzy, it was a rough night. It was a rough night for Izzy, man.
Okay.
Yeah. He had the rushing touchdown, but man, he was 9 of 27, or 9 carries, 27 yards, around 3 yards per carry. I'm not blaming him. It was just the offensive line, wasn't creating the biggest run lanes for him, but it's kind of what we talked about. He's a runway runner. He couldn't create for himself.
Yeah, DP, and I'll say this, because I was kind of hesitant about putting Zach Wilson right. I would put the Jets offensive unit, right? It looked out of sync, and we're not going to get started on Nathaniel Hackett, right? But it looked out of sync at times, and I think that was the part that you expected to see. And obviously, it's not the stars, right? It's not Aaron Rodgers, it's not Garrett Wilson out there routing people up. We understand that, right? But there are some players playing, you know what I'm saying? And I just didn't know if I seen a true identity yet. Like, okay, what are they going to do? And just a plan for Zach Wilson, and then with Israel Bandicanda in there, and then some good play action stuff baked off of that, right? Like I didn't see that part yet, and maybe I'm being extra critical because I'm like, hey, Nathaniel Hackett was just in Denver, and then now I'm paying a keen attention to right what the New York Jets doing. And for me, DP, it's not so much about just the results, right? I didn't expect them to go out there and score 30 points in the first game, but just process. And to be completely honest, Nathaniel Hackett needs to be practicing, right? Like he needs to treat this like a game, because the last time we seen him, it was not good with Denver, right? We're talking about they were, getting the play calls in late, right? We're talking about the all-time great moment from the Peyton Manning, right? When he called 50 timeouts in the time that he needed to call a timeout. Like we've seen some blunders on behalf of that. So I was watching the game and say, hey, what is this going to look like, right? Because this lets you know if this is going to be strictly Aaron Rodgers' show and Nathaniel Hackett was only hired just to listen to Aaron Rodgers, or Nathaniel Hackett, or you calling plays and you have a situation to where you know what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? And I think that was a big part for me, DP. So I would change it a little bit. I wouldn't necessarily just put it solely on Zach Wilson. But if you ask me the bad, and obviously it's preseason 1 Hall of Fame game, but the bad would have been the Jets' offensive identity. I didn't fully see that.
Yeah, I think, for me, even with combining it with Izzy, the offensive line pass blocked very well for the most part. They didn't run block very well. You know what I mean? And that was something that I noticed, just like guys in the backfield, just surge being created, not being able to really create those running lanes and those runways for a back like Izzy Abanikanda. But at the same
I
time,
thought he would have. I wouldn't have put him as my bad, right? But I was expecting a bigger game for Israel Bandicanda, right? Like if you ask me, I'm like, I think this guy can get 8 carries and 60 yards or something like that.
Right. No, 100%. And I think that's where, for me, it's like, okay, it was a good litmus test for him, because it's like, all right, the offensive line wasn't perfect in run block. Can you create for yourself to find space past the line of scrimmage and really allow that Lamborghini in terms of your speed to get out in the open on the drag track, right? And make these linebackers and safeties and backside corners make it a foot race and tell them to catch you. And you know what I mean? Because that one run that he had for the touchdown, he beat the defense to the edge, right? And beat them to the corner, and he scored. So it's that type of situation for me where I just didn't see enough from him as a creative runner. I think he only had, like, PFF has him charted for like one miss tackle forced, and I'm like, man, like off of 9 carries and the way that it was conjunctured, like it was just so congested for him. You would have liked to see him create a little bit more by himself. But Keith, I want to stick to that offensive line a little bit. Carter Warren in pass protection. Not Carter Warren. I'm going to go to Tony Fields, the linebacker, a guy that I actually like coming out of West Virginia. And I remember talking to someone with the program and everything, and they were really excited for him to go to Cleveland, because at the time, Cleveland didn't have, when he was drafted, they didn't have a solidified linebacker and he didn't look that good to me. He didn't look great. He struggled, man, and especially I think it was in pass protection, not pass in pass coverage. You kind of saw him, get beat, give up lanes, different things like that. I think he was targeted 4 times, a lot of 3 catches, about 10 yards, almost 11 yards per catch with 32 yards in allowed in coverage. And you just kind of, for an athletic linebacker, you want to see him just defend a little bit better, man. I felt like he was more so how we always talk about reacting and not thinking. I felt like he was thinking. I felt like he was just a tick slow, a tick behind at times. But I had Carter Warren down on my list, but I ended up taking him off because I was watching and I was like, yeah, Tony, Fields just did not do it for me, man. And I just expected more from him because he is an athletically gifted linebacker. But he did play, what was it, Big 12? It's a different ball game, of course.
Right.
Going to the NFL.
Different process. DP, look, I have one more. The lights, right? We got to let the band. The lights. What are we doing, man? The stadium lights.
We knew this game was coming. What happened?
Yeah, it's already a preseason game. And then now we extending time because the light's not working. So we was like, man, what are we doing, right? And there's always, the jokes about
I almost
Aaron
forgot
Rodgers.
about that. I'm glad you brought that up.
the jokes about Aaron Rodgers being back in the dark and stuff like that. But the bad part was the lights. Like we have to mention that. That was a part of the game.
I thought it was the Baltimore Ravens Niners Super Bowl all over again. I was like, wait a minute. I just looked at the TV. I was like, is my color off? Like, why does it look so dark on TV? And I was like, oh, the lights are out. Delayed of game. You know what I mean? So no, I'm so glad you brought that up. NFL, get it together, man. You know what I mean? A couple years ago, you had the turf messed up out there. Somebody got hurt and all that. And now you got the lights shutting off, like going into the fourth quarter. NFL, get it together.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm with DP. Let's go ahead and transition this thing, man. We knocked out the good. We knocked out the bad, including the lighting, right? We knocked out the bad, including the lighting. But coming up next, man, we have the Aite, right? What is Aite? Aite can mean all right, or it can mean all right. I'm not too sure, right? I'm not too sure. So coming up next, man, we're going to pick our Aite moments, players, situations from yesterday's game.
I mean, that's kind of, there was a couple plays that made me say that last night, Keith. I was like, all right, okay, I see it. And there was a couple where I'm like, all right. We'll go from there. But Keith, I'll kick it off, man. I'll say my player that I had listed is actually Will McDonald. Guy that we kind of, we both liked him to an extent through the draft process. Neither one of us had him pegged as like a top 20 first round pick.
Yeah,
but he flashed a little bit.
I had a third round grade. If
that. I gave him a 2, but
yeah,
he was not really. He wasn't buying into the. And a lot of it had to do how he was used, right? So, like you saw the flashes of pass rush ability from him last night. He did a good job setting up. I forget who the tackle was for the Browns, but attacked the outside arc, and then gave himself space to spin back inside. That quick, fluid, just nimble spin, good footwork, and then he ice picked, right? Pat my man on the back to complete the spin and get the pressure on DTR. It forced an errant pass that DTR was trying to complete, and it had, because you could tell he wasn't expecting McDonald to work back inside. So you saw the flash, you saw a couple flashes with him. Well, I'm like, okay, all right, this is what you want to see, right? Now, it depends on how many reps he's going to get in the season and everything to justify that pick. But I think that he should. I mean, you drafted in the top 20, he better get at least 50% of the snaps. You know what I mean? But I think that the Jets team and the defensive staff should feel all right about what they saw from him last night. It's like, okay, this is a foundation that we can build, put some blocks on to build up this building and go from there with him.
Yeah, so that's the part that you wonder, okay, where we're going with this, right? Because of because you've seen Michael Clemens out there also, and Michael Clemens, he looked decent.
Jermaine Johnson was out there too.
Yeah, Jermaine Johnson was out there. So they have a lot of pass rush. So that's what I wonder, right? Like, what is his snap share going to be? And it looked good yesterday, right? Like just his movement skills and his athleticism. And that's something that shows and bodes well for him. But you just kind of have to continue to see how does that play out. But DP, my all right moment, right? And it was more like, all right, okay. That was the big hit, right? That was the big hit, and they called the fumble. And I was like, okay, we got some football here. We got some football. We had a safety come down, make a play. And I thought it was impressive, right? We're talking about week, preseason game, 1 Hall of Fame game. And then, like you said, you've seen those boys out there fighting for a spot, right? And that's what it's all about. You're trying to fight for a roster spot. You're trying to make a play.
No, 100%. And Keith, I'll go crazy enough. I actually had Zach Wilson in my all right type of segment as well in that stage, because I was like, okay, I saw the deep ball from the arm talent, right? Drop back foot hits, and he launches it and connects with almost a 60-yard play down the left sideline. And
that's why I had to shift it. That's why I had to shift it, because I was about to put him part of the bad, but I'm like, it wasn't, it was more sort of flow for me, right? Because he did, and I could see like what you putting Zach Wilson in the ice section, because there were like, well, this is better than what it was last year, right? Like that, like you kind of, still just felt like that. So that's why I had to kind of put it more on the offensive flow for me with the bad part, because he didn't like trying to kill him or put all it on his shoulders. He didn't play bad. Like you said, you can talk about offensive line, you can talk about routes ran. There were other situations around him that weren't 100%. Necessarily operating at 100%.
Now, third down, you can't slip. You know what I mean? You out here spinning in the pocket. You approach the line of scrimmage. You try to cut back cross field like you Lamar Jackson. No, big fellas, just go get the first down. You know what I mean? Like, just go get the first down. But also, I think I had a question on, like, I of course the all 22 isn't out yet, but I want to see that play, because I think it was like mesh concept, like in the third and short, and I'm like, okay, I feel like somebody might have been open, and like the fact that he didn't throw it, you know what I mean? Like the timing and everything, which kind of goes back to what you talk about, right? Just the offense in general, the identity, timing, rhythm, all that stuff. First real live game action, but that's just something that crossed my mind, because I was like, was somebody open on that? Because that was a play where he slipped and fell. Then I think another third down, he stared at the receiver, the route he wanted, and one of the defensive linemen from the Browns got their hands up. They read his eyes and batted the ball down. So it's still some of the things that you want to. This is going into year 3. He's got to make a jump, man. He's got to make a jump. Granted, he only played a certain amount of snaps. I wanted to see him get like the whole quarter, maybe almost the whole half, really, of that game, to really give him more opportunities to get other rhythm. But I got to put him in the eyes moment, because that deep throw was like, all right. Then he slipped. I was like, all right. Then the batted pass was like,
yeah.
All right.
That was all right. Here we go.
Yeah, it was like, here we go again. You know what I mean?
But now, BP, I think that was fun, man. That was fun. I felt good, right? Like it was 7:00 Central Time. I live in Central Time, so had the game kick off at 7:00, right? Then you lay down at 9:30 in the fourth quarter, just starting up. It just felt like everything was right in the world, DP. Everything was right in the world. So, man, I'm excited. Next week we have a full slate of preseason games, and we're gonna keep this thing going, right? We may switch up the segments a little bit and talk about different things as we have more teams playing next week, right? But we thought it was fun just to do a little Hall of Fame game recap. And like we said, man, we definitely appreciate y'all for tapping in with us, having these conversations. We're covering everything. Like I said, week 1, game 1 of preseason, we're talking about that too in regards to these draft prospects. So shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us.
For sure. Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Guys, thank y'all for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day, Monday through Friday. Appreciate y'all for being the everydayers and the family. Go subscribe on YouTube. As I said, hit the bell notification, like, comment, let us know your biggest thoughts. You're good, you're bad, you're all right from the Hall of Fame game, guys. But as always, in terms of Twitter, you can find and follow Keith Sanchez at The Talent Code, me, DP _ NFL. Come and talk to us, because we talk back. But come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.